We are jumping straight into one of the most unbelievable financial events in modern history. We're talking about the ultimate David versus Goliath story of the digital age. This is the story of how a group of everyday internet users, gamers, students, office workers, decided to literally go to war with Wall Street billionaires. And the craziest part of the whole shebang, they actually won. We're going to break down exactly how this happened, step by step, and why this movement changed the stock market forever. This is not going to end well. That was the exact sentiment echoing across elite financial circles back in January 2021. What started as just a bunch of internet memes and inside jokes transformed into an all-out financial revolution. Our David, armed with nothing but smartphones and Reddit accounts, actually found a crack in Goliath's armor. Hedge funds lost billions, trading platforms totally panicked, and the entire world just watched in disbelief. But to really grasp how we got to this explosive moment, we have to look backward. So, the unforgiven grievance. Because honestly, this wasn't just about making a quick buck. It was driven by deep-seated emotion. Think back to the 2008 financial crisis. The system completely collapsed. Ordinary people lost their jobs, their homes, and their life savings. But Goliath? The big banks and massive hedge funds that made the reckless bets causing the whole crisis? They didn't face ruin. Nope, they received billions in taxpayer bailouts. The resentment over that massive injustice had been simmering for over a decade. Then, fast forward to 2020, the pandemic hit, shutting down the world. Once again, millions of everyday people lost work and Main Street small businesses collapsed. But Wall Street, they experienced a totally different reality. The stock market mysteriously boomed and corporate giants became richer than ever before. To a lot of people looking at this huge disconnect, it felt like undeniable proof that the financial system really only worked for the wealthy. It was a complete pressure cooker, a frustration, and the lid was about to blow right off. Which brings us to part 2, the Reddit resistance. Enter the unlikely heroes of our story. Deep inside Reddit, there was this chaotic community called Wall Street Bets. Now, this wasn't some stuffy boardroom. It was a place fueled by internet humor and incredibly risky bets. And one user really stood out, a guy named Keith Gill. While professional billionaire investors were laughing at a dying strip mall video game retailer called GameStop, Keith noticed something they completely missed. He saw that Goliath had gotten a little too arrogant and left a massive vulnerability totally exposed. Okay, so to understand that vulnerability, we need to understand Goliath's weapon of choice, short selling. When Wall Street thinks a company is going bankrupt, they don't just walk away, they short it. This means they literally borrow shares of the company and sell them immediately. They're hoping, praying, really, that the stock price crashes. Why? Because then they can buy those shares back at a much cheaper price, return the borrowed shares, and pocket the massive difference as pure profit. They were betting heavily on GameStop's absolute death. But here is where the story gets absolutely insane. 130%. Hedge funds had shorted 130% of GameStop's stock. Actually, scratch that. Let that sink in for a second. Wall Street was so greedy and so overly confident that GameStop would go bankrupt that they bet more shares against the company than actually existed in reality. So the crucial point is this. If the stock price somehow went up instead of down, these hedge funds would be trapped. They'd have to buy back shares that simply weren't available. All right, part 3. The short squeeze slingshot. The Reddit army had found their weapon. Let's walk through the battle plan the internet devised to trap Wall Street. Step 1, everyday investors buy GameStop stock collectively. Step 2, all that buying pressure makes the price rise. Step 3, and this is the trap, as the price rises, the hedge funds who shorted the stock start losing billions. To stop their catastrophic losses, those funds are literally forced to buy GameStop shares to close their positions. Step 4, Goliath's forced buying pushes the price even higher, forcing more hedge funds to buy, creating a wild, uncontrollable upward spiral. This, my friends, is the fabled short squeeze. But this wasn't just some cold mathematical strategy. Digital battle cries flooded the internet. Hold the line, diamond hands, which basically meant don't sell your shares no matter how wild the ride gets. Stick it to Wall Street. People were pouring their life savings into this dying video game company, not because the company's fundamentals were suddenly amazing, but to punish the financial elite. It was a digital protest. Buying the stock was a way to finally exact revenge for 2008. The momentum was completely unstoppable, leading us right into part 4, Goliath bleeds billions.
$400. In just a matter of days, GameStop stock exploded from a few bucks a share to over $400. A company that was widely considered practically dead was suddenly worth tens of billions of dollars. The Reddit army's slingshot had hit Goliath right between the eyes.
The devastation on Wall Street was absolute. A massive hedge fund named Melvin Capital bled so much cash from their bad GameStop bets that they required a multi-billion-dollar bailout from other financial institutions just to survive the week. Goliath was quite literally brought to his knees. And meanwhile, ordinary people were making life-changing money. The little guys were cashing out, paying off crushing student loans, eliminating medical debt, and even donating huge sums to charity. And what about Keith Gill, the guy who saw all this coming? His original $53,000 investment ballooned to a peak temporary value of nearly $48 million. I mean, no way, right? He became the undisputed hero of the internet resistance. It was this ultimate, euphoric victory. The system had finally been beaten at its own game. But as you might guess, the story doesn't end with a clean victory. Part 5. The Empire Strikes Back. Right at the absolute peak of the squeeze, when Wall Street was bleeding the most, the rules of the game abruptly changed. Robinhood, the trading app used by millions of these everyday retail investors, suddenly froze the market. They stopped users from buying GameStop stock. You were only allowed to sell it. Now, think about the pure mechanics of that for a second. If an entire market of people is legally only allowed to sell an asset and no one is allowed to buy it, well, the price is 100% mathematically guaranteed to crash. And crash it did. The fallout was absolute chaos. The internet completely erupted with accusations that the market was rigged. People started aggressively questioning Robinhood's lucrative financial ties to the very Wall Street giants who were losing money. This wasn't just some fringe internet conspiracy anymore. Politicians from both sides of the aisle demanded immediate investigations. Celebrities, and even Elon Musk, publicly called out Robinhood's leadership for freezing out the little guy. Which leaves us with one final lingering question. When billionaires win in the stock market, we're told it's just smart investing. It's the free market at work. But when ordinary people use the exact same rules to win, do the rules suddenly change? The GameStop revolution proved that a collective group of everyday people holds immense, world-shifting power, but it also left us all wondering if the financial playing field will ever truly be level. All right, thank you for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you a really clear picture of this wild moment in financial history. Keep asking questions and keep learning.